Sunday has always been family dinner day, a tradition I've kept for more than a decade since the kids were grown and gone home. Every Sunday at 6 o'clock in the evening, I would set the table, cook something special, and the three of us would get together, or the four of us if Amelia brought Fabian. That day, I made fried chicken with rice and beans, Amelia's favorite dish from childhood, mashed potatoes for Fabian, who was always asking for more. For dessert, I baked a simple biscuit with peach jam. It was nothing special, but it was heartfelt, just like my mother taught me. Amelia arrived at 6 sharp as usual. She was tall, slender, with dark hair in a neat bun. In a light blue blouse and dark pants, she looked strict, businesslike. Fabian walked beside her, slouching a little, wearing jeans and a plaid shirt. His hands were always a little dirty. Even at home, he couldn't get the paint and machine oil out from under his fingernails. "Mom, how are you doing?" Amelia kissed me on the cheek and walked into the kitchen, where I was taking the chicken out of the oven. "I'm fine, daughter. How are you? Fabian, sit down. I'll set the table." Fabian nodded and went into the living room, where he sat in his usual chair by the window. He was always a man of few words, especially in the first half hour of his visit. Amelia said he was shy of me, even though we'd known each other for 8 years. I set the plates on the living room table where we always had Sunday dinner. It was a round wooden table from my parents. It could seat 4, but Damien hadn't shown up today because he'd told me he was working an extra shift this morning. "Mom, can I help?" Amelia looked into the living room. "No, daughter, sit down. It's almost ready." I brought the dishes and we started dinner. First, we talked about the weather, the neighbors, the fact that food prices had gone up again. The usual conversations that fill the pauses between people who see each other every week, but don't always know what to talk about. Fabian ate in silence, nodding occasionally in response to my questions about work. Things were going well, orders were plentiful, though customers were sometimes late in paying. I poured him a refill of mashed potatoes, and he smiled gratefully. "I have news," Amelia said when we were almost done with the main courses. I looked up. There was a special tone in my daughter's voice, solemn and yet wary at the same time. "What news?" I asked, setting my fork aside. "I found a new job." "You did?" I was glad. "What happened to the old one? I thought you said everything was fine at the clinic." Amelia looked at Fabian, and he nodded as if to encourage her. "The clinic doesn't pay much, Mom. They offered really good money. Where are you going to work?" Amelia paused, twirling the leftover rice on her plate with her fork. "It's an entertainment establishment on the outskirts of town, near the new shopping center." "Entertainment?" I didn't understand. "What does that mean?" "Well, there's tables for games, you can play cards, dominoes. I'll work as a receptionist, keep the place clean, receive visitors." Something in her explanation struck me as odd. Amelia avoided my gaze, and Fabian suddenly began to study his plate very carefully. "What is this place? What's it called?" "Mom, it doesn't matter. The main thing is that it pays 3 times as much as the clinic." "3 times?" I was surprised. "What's that kind of money for?" "For the work, Mom. It just pays well." I felt uneasy. In 31 years of life, Amelia had never been adventurous. She'd always chosen stability, reliability. She graduated from medical school, worked as a nurse, then moved to a private clinic as a receptionist. Everything's clear, everything's by the book. "Amelia, is this legal? Is this place official?" My daughter froze with a piece of chicken on her fork. "Of course it is, Mom. It's just, there's all kinds of places. Not everybody likes to shine a lot." "What do you mean they don't like to shine?" Fabian coughed and put a hand on his wife's shoulder. "Evelina, don't worry. Amelia is a grown woman. She knows what she's doing." "I'm not worried," I said, though it wasn't true. "I just want to see what kind of work it is." "Mom, they play cards and dominoes and all sorts of games. For money, yes, but it's not forbidden." "For money?" My heart sank. "Amelia, it's gambling." "So what? People are having fun. I'm just keeping order." "What if the police come?" "Why should the police come?" Amelia suddenly became irritated. "Mom, I'm not a child. I'm 31 years old." "Precisely because you're not a child, you should realize that it's dangerous." What's dangerous about making a good living? I got up from the table and started collecting plates. My hands were shaking. All these years I'd paid for their house, their mortgage, so the young ones could get on their feet, save money, get settled. I'd given almost half my cashier's salary every month so they could live in their own house instead of renting a room on the outskirts of town. Amelia, I said, not turning to her, do you realize that if anything happens, if you get arrested, it will affect all of us? No one's getting arrested, Mom. But what if it does? What if the neighbors find out? What if they talk about it at the store? I've been working there for 15 years. The neighbors won't find out, and no one at the store would find out either. I turned around. Amelia was sitting with her arms crossed over her chest, looking at me defiantly. Fabian was silent, but I could see he was on his wife's side. How do you know they won't find out? I asked. What if the place gets busted? What if there's trouble? Mom, come on, I've made up my mind. I'm going back to work tomorrow. Tomorrow? I'm out of breath. So you've already quit the clinic? Yes. Today was my last shift. I put the plates on the kitchen table and rested my hands on the countertop. So the decision's already been made. No discussion with me, no advice. Amelia just put me in front of the fact. Daughter. I walked back into the living room and sat down across from them. Listen to me. I've been paying for your house for 4 years. Every month I give the bank 800 sols of my 1,200 salary. I do it because I want you to have your own house, your own family. But if you go to work in this, establishment, if anything happens— Nothing will happen, Amelia interrupted me. What if it does? What if you get arrested? What if it's in the paper? Do you think it will be easy for me to continue working at the store when everyone knows that my daughter— My daughter what? Amelia got up from the table. That my daughter is making decent money instead of getting pennies for 12-hour shifts? Amelia, sit down, Fabian said quietly. No, let Mom say what she thinks. I looked at my daughter and didn't recognize her. I hadn't seen her this aggressive, this stubborn in a long time, maybe not since she was a teenager. I think honest work is better than good money, I said. Honest work? Amelia laughed, but it wasn't a good laugh. Mom, honest work doesn't pay well in this country. You've been a cashier for 15 years, and what? You can barely make ends meet. At least I can sleep well. And I won't be able to sleep well if I know that I can earn 3 times as much, but I'm making pennies. Fabian stood up and walked over to his wife. Evelina, he said, turning to me. We're adults. We know what we're doing. Amelia won't be doing anything bad. She's just going to work as a receptionist. In an underground casino, I said. It's not a casino, Amelia countered. It's a club. A gambling club. So what? People gamble, people have fun. What's the problem? The problem is it's illegal. Mom, are you a lawyer or something? How do you know what's legal and what's not? I got up and went back into the kitchen. I had to do something with my hands to keep from screaming. I started washing the plates, and the warm water was a little soothing. Amelia, I called out without turning around. Come here. My daughter walked into the kitchen and stood beside me, leaning against the refrigerator. I'm begging you, I said quietly. Don't do this. Find another job. If money's tight, I can help. Mom, you're already helping. You're paying our mortgage. I can help more. With what? You don't have any money. I'll find some. I'll ask for a bonus, pick up extra shifts. Amelia shook her head. No need, Mom. I've already decided. Then at least think about it for another week. Take your time. I've been thinking for 2 months. That's long enough. I turned around and looked at my daughter. She had the stubborn, determined expression on her face that I remembered well from childhood. When Amelia looked like that, it was impossible to change her mind. All right, I said, but if anything happens, don't say I didn't warn you. Nothing will happen. We went back to the living room, where Fabian sat staring out the window. I brought the biscuit and cut it into pieces, but no one ate. The mood was ruined. Mom, don't be mad, Amelia said. I'm not mad, I'm worried. It's going to be okay. Fabian got up and started to pack his jacket. We have to go now, he said. Why so early? I asked. You usually stay until 8. We have things to do, Amelia answered, getting up too. I realized they were leaving because of our conversation, because I was trying to talk my daughter out of this job. I felt sad and resentful. Every Sunday I cooked, set the table, bought something special for dinner, and now they're leaving without even finishing dessert. At least take the biscuits with you, I said. No need, Mom, Amelia said. She came up to me and kissed my cheek, but it was formal, cold. Fabian shook my hand and kissed me briefly too. Goodbye, Evelina. Thank you for dinner. You're welcome, I replied, though my heart felt heavy. I walked them to the door and watched them walk down the path to the gate. Amelia walked quickly, not turning around. Fabian turned around once and waved at me. When they were around the corner, I closed the door and went back into the living room. There were pieces of biscuit left on the table, juice in glasses. All the festive decorations seemed silly and unnecessary now. I started to clear the table, and with every movement, my resentment grew. Not at Amelia, at the situation. That my daughter was choosing a shady job over an honest living. That I couldn't help her, couldn't offer her a better option. The fact that I have to pay almost all the money for their mortgage every month, and they don't even consider it necessary to consult with me in important matters. 4 years ago, when Amelia and Fabian decided to buy a house, I was happy. At last, they would have their own place, their own family, their own hearth. The house was small but cozy, in a quiet neighborhood, not far from the center. They collected the down payment themselves, but the mortgage payments were too big for their salaries. So I offered to help. Mom, we can't accept that kind of money, Amelia said. Yes, you can, I said. It's for your future, for your children. Back then, we still hoped we'd have grandchildren soon. But it's been 4 years and still no children. Amelia says she's not ready yet, that she wants to settle down first, to save money. And now she has decided to earn money by dubious means. 800 sols a month is more than half of my salary. After paying the mortgage, I have 400 sols left for everything else. Food, utilities, clothes, medicines. Sometimes I have to take extra shifts on weekends in order to have enough to cover my salary. But I never complained, never reminded my kids about it. I thought I was doing the right thing, that I was helping them to get back on their feet. And now it turns out that I've been living on welfare for 4 years to pay for a house for a daughter who's going to work at an underground casino. I finished washing the dishes and sat down in the kitchen at the small table where I usually ate breakfast in the morning. It was already getting dark outside the window. The street lights were coming on. The neighbors across the street were closing their curtains, getting ready for bed. An ordinary Sunday was coming to an end, but there was nothing ordinary about it anymore. I tried to imagine what would happen tomorrow. Amelia would go to her new job at this mysterious establishment on the outskirts of town. She would greet visitors who came to gamble. She'll make sure they don't quarrel, don't fight, pay on time. What if the police come? What if there's a raid? What if someone gets arrested? In our town, everyone knows each other, especially in our neighborhood, where I've lived for 20 years. Neighbors, shoppers in the store, acquaintances on the street. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone has heard of everyone. If Amelia gets arrested, if there's a casino raid in the paper, everyone will know it's my daughter. And then what? How am I going to go to work? How am I going to look people in the eye? Pedro, the store manager, is very strict about the reputation of his employees. When one cashier was fired a year ago because her son was caught stealing, he said, "I can't keep people who dishonor our establishment." What if he finds out about Amelia? I got up and started walking around the kitchen, a small kitchen, 4 steps from the table to the stove, 2 steps from the stove to the refrigerator. But walking helped me think. Maybe I'm being overly dramatic. Maybe it's really just a receptionist's job and nothing terrible will happen. Amelia isn't stupid. She wouldn't take a blatantly criminal job. It's probably just a gambling club that operates in a gray area. It's not exactly legal, but it's not exactly illegal. But then why do I have such a bad feeling about it? Why is everything inside me protesting my daughter's decision? Probably because I know Amelia. She's always been honest, proper, law-abiding. She never cheated at school. She passed all her exams at the institute. She was never late or absent from work. Suddenly, it's like this. So something seriously changed. Something made her do it. Money. Of course, money. 3 times the amount of money from the clinic, that's really a lot of money. With that kind of money, you could live a completely different life. Not counting every salt, not putting off buying new clothes for months, not skimping on food. Or maybe it's not just about the money. Maybe Amelia is tired of me paying their mortgage. Maybe she's embarrassed that, at 31, her mother is supporting her family, and now she's willing to do anything to become financially independent. If that's the case, it's my fault. I created this situation when I offered to help with the mortgage. I thought I was doing a good thing, but it turns out I put my daughter in a humiliating position. But 4 years ago, they really had no other option. Amelia's salary at the clinic and Fabian's earnings from plumbing work barely covered the rent of a one-room apartment on the outskirts. They could only dream of a house of their own. And then an opportunity came up to buy a small house of their own, so I decided to help. Was that wrong? I don't know anymore. Maybe it would have been better to let them deal with their own problems. Then they wouldn't have bought a house, they'd still be renting, but they wouldn't have that feeling of dependency. And Amelia wouldn't have gone to work at a shady place just to make money for the mortgage. I sat back down at the table and rested my head on my hands. I felt tired all at once, like I'd been carrying heavy bags all day. It had been an ordinary day, cleaning the house in the morning, cooking dinner in the afternoon, grocery shopping. Nothing special. But the conversation with Amelia had drained me of all my energy. It was getting dark outside the window. It was time to get ready for bed. I had to work early tomorrow, but I knew I wouldn't fall asleep. I would lie there and think about what would happen tomorrow when Amelia went to her new place. I'll imagine her entering this mysterious institution, meeting her new co-workers, starting her dubious career. Maybe it's not too late to make a change. Maybe call her tomorrow morning and try to talk to her again, a more calm, unemotional, mature conversation, explain my fears, ask her to at least wait, look for other options. But I knew it was useless. Once Amelia had made up her mind, there was no changing her mind. She'd been like that since she was a little girl. Stubborn, principled, not like to change her plans. If she says she's going to a new job tomorrow, she's going. No matter what I say, all I can do is wait and hope that my fears are in vain, that everything will be all right, that nothing bad will happen, that in a month or two I would laugh at my worries and be happy that my daughter had found a good job. But deep down inside, I knew it wouldn't be that easy. Something was bound to go wrong. I had this premonition that was impossible to get rid of. Monday morning, I woke up with a heavy head. I tossed and turned all night, thinking about Amelia, about her new job, about what would happen next. I got up several times, went to the kitchen, drank water, and lay down again. Sleep came in spurts, and I had some unpleasant dreams that I couldn't remember, but that left me with an oppressive feeling. It was hard to concentrate at work, too. I was punching out goods at the cash register, smiling at customers, answering their questions, but my thoughts kept coming back to yesterday's conversation. I wondered if Amelia had gone to her new place today. How was her first day? What is she thinking, standing behind the receptionist's desk at this mysterious establishment? By lunchtime, I was completely exhausted from my own thoughts. It's a good thing it's Wednesday, the day I'm meeting Celestina. Every Wednesday for over 5 years now, we've met at the La Rosita Cafe near the Central Square. We drink coffee, eat cakes, discuss the news, share problems. Celestina is the only person with whom I can talk frankly about anything. We've known each other since high school, although we became friends much later, when we were both married and raising children. Celestina was married at 19 to Raphael, who worked as a mechanic in an automobile repair shop. They had 3 children, but they all moved away to different cities, and now Celestina and her husband lived alone in a large house that seemed too empty for them. After work, I quickly changed and went to the cafe. Celestina was already sitting at our usual table by the window, stirring her coffee and looking outside. When she saw me, she waved and smiled. "Evelina, what's up, friend?" I kissed her on the cheek and sat down across from her. Celestina looked as neat and a little stern as ever. Her gray hair was in a bun, her dress was dark, and she wore small gold earrings. At 59, she was still slim and looked after herself better than many young women. "Do you want coffee?" she asked. "Of course." Celestina called for a waitress, and we ordered coffee and sweet cinnamon cookies, which were very good here. "You seem sad today," Celestina said when the waitress left. "What's wrong?" I sighed. With Celestina, I didn't have to pretend that everything was okay. She always sensed my moods and never judged. "Trouble with Amelia," I said. "Again?" Celestina frowned. "What is it this time? She got a new job. What's wrong with that? Didn't she like it at the clinic?" "She did. But it didn't pay enough, and now she's taken the job." I hesitated, not knowing how best to explain. "Where?" "A gambling place, on the outskirts of town." Celestina put the spoon down and looked at me carefully. "What do you mean? A gambling place?" "Literally. They play cards for money, dominoes. She'll be the administrator." "Jesus," Celestina shook her head. "And she went there herself?" "She did. She says it pays 3 times as much. The waitress brought coffee, and we talked while she set the cups on the table. When the girl left, Celestina leaned toward me. "Evelina, it's dangerous. What if the police come?" That's what I told her, but she won't listen. She says I don't understand. "What about Fabian?" "He supports her." He sat silent and nodded. Celestina sipped her coffee and looked out the window thoughtfully. It was evening rush hour in the square. People were hurrying home from work. Vendors were closing their stalls. "Have you tried talking to Damien?" she asked. "Damien?" I didn't understand. "About what?" "Ask him to talk to his sister. Maybe she'll listen to him, a brother after all. I've been thinking. Damien could really influence Amelia. They always got along despite their age difference. Amelia often consulted her brother, especially when she was younger, and Damien could talk to people. He had a talent for persuasion. Maybe he could explain to his sister that she was making a mistake." "Good idea," I said. "Thank you, Celestina. You should try it. Amelia's a smart girl. She's just blinded by money right now, and Damien will be able to find the right words." We finished our coffees and talked about other little things, the weather, the neighbors, the fact that bus fares had gone up again. But all I could think about was the conversation with Damien. The more I thought about it, the more I liked Celestina's idea. Damien worked as a shuttle driver on the line from downtown to the industrial district. It was hard work, driving all day, but he never complained. He said he loved talking to people, that he learned something new from the passengers every day. He had some special ability to find common language with all kinds of people, with elderly women going to the market, with workers returning from factories, with students rushing to classes. If anyone could change Amelia's mind, it was him. I returned home in a good mood. The plan was simple. Call Damien, tell him about the problem, ask him to talk to my sister. Damien's smart. He'd figure out what was wrong and find a way to influence Amelia. I ate dinner, cleaned up the kitchen, and dialed my son's number at 8 o'clock at night. He answered right away. "Hey, Mom, how you doing?" "Hi, son. I'm doing. Not so good. I need to talk to you." "About what?" Damien sounded a little wary. "About Amelia. Do you know where she works now?" "No." "Why?" I told him everything about Sunday dinner, about Amelia's new job, about the gambling parlor, about my fears. Damien listened in silence, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "What do you want me to do?" he asked when I was done. "Talk to her. Maybe she'll listen to you." Damien was quiet for a moment. "Mom, Amelia is a grown woman. She makes her own decisions." "But that's a stupid decision." I couldn't stand it. "She's risking her reputation, her future, for money." "Maybe she really needs the money. She has a job, she has a house. What more do you need?" "I don't know, Mom, but if she's doing this, she must have her reasons." I felt disappointed. Damien sounded like he was justifying his sister's actions. "Damien, I'm begging you. Talk to her. Just talk to her. Maybe you can figure out what she really needs." The son was silent again. "All right," he said at last. "I'll try to talk to her, but I can't promise it'll help." "Thank you, son. I sure hope so." "Mom, have you ever thought that maybe you should just trust Amelia? She's not stupid. She knows what she's doing. If she did, she wouldn't be working at the casino." "It's not a casino, Mom. It's a club." "What difference does it make what it's called?" Damien sighed. "All right, I'll talk to her. But then stay out of her business, okay?" "Okay," I agreed, even though I knew it was impossible. How can you stay out of your own daughter's business, especially when she makes a mistake? We said goodbye, and I hung up the phone with a sense of relief. The plan was in motion. Damien would talk to Amelia, explain the risk she was taking, convince her to find another job. Things could still be fixed. For the next 3 days, I waited for a call from my son. Every time the phone rang, my heart pounded. Could it be Damien with good news? But the only calls were from work colleagues, a neighbor who was interested in my pie recipe, and store clerks. On Saturday night, my patience ran out and I called Damien myself. "What's up?" I asked without preamble. "Talk to Amelia?" "I did, Mom." "What did she say?" Damien paused, and I could tell by the pause that the news was bad. "She told me to stay out of her life." My heart sank. "Just that?" "It's not just that. She's really mad at you, Mom. She says you're trying to control her every move. That's not true. Maybe it is, but she thinks it is." "What else did she say?" "That she likes her job. The staff is good, the money's good, no problems. And the risks? That it's illegal?" I did. She said it was legal, that they had all the permits. I could feel the irritation growing. Amelia was lying to her brother like she had lied to me yesterday. There can't be any permits for an underground casino. "Damien, did you believe her?" "I don't know, Mom. Maybe there really is nothing wrong with their paperwork." "No way." "Why not?" "Because I know how it works. If they're legit, why hide out in the suburbs? Why pay that much money?" Damien was quiet again. "Mom, I did what I could. I won't talk to her about it again." "But I won't," he said firmly. "And I suggest you leave her alone." "How can I leave my own daughter alone?" "Simple. She's an adult with a husband, a home. Let her deal with her own problems." I wanted to object, but Damien had already said goodbye and hung up. I was left sitting there with the phone in my hands, feeling my last hope slipping away. So Damien couldn't influence his sister either. What's more, Amelia had been rude to him, telling me to stay out of her life. And my son now thinks I control the kids too much. Maybe they're right. Maybe I do interfere too much in the lives of adult children. But how can you not interfere when you see your daughter making a mistake? How can you calmly watch her risk her future? I went to bed with a heavy heart. The plan with Damien had failed. There was no one else to ask for help. I could only wait and hope that Amelia would realize her mistake before it was too late. The week passed quietly. I tried not to think about Amelia and her new job, but it was like not thinking about a toothache impossible. Every morning as I went to work, I imagined my daughter getting ready for her position, driving to the outskirts of town, entering that mysterious establishment. What is she doing there? Who is she socializing with? How is her workday going? Damien never called again. After our last conversation, there was an invisible wall between us. He thought I was interfering too much in my sister's life, and I thought he didn't understand the gravity of the situation. I was hurt by this estrangement, but my pride prevented me from making the first move. On Monday morning, as I was on my way to work, my neighbor Doña Rosa stopped me at the gate. "Evelina," she said, lowering her voice conspiratorially, "is it true that your Amelia is now working in that new place?" My heart jumped. It's starting. "What place?" I asked, even though I knew exactly what he was talking about. "You know, on the outskirts, where people play cards. Maricella's neighbor said she'd seen her there. Doña Rosa was the neighborhood's biggest gossip. If she found out something, by evening, everyone in the neighborhood knew about it." I tried to stay calm. "I don't know what you're talking about, Rosa. Come on, Evelina, everyone already knows." Maricella's husband told Maricella he was there last Friday. He said Amelia was out front greeting customers. I felt the color flood my face. So it's true. Amelia really does work at that place, and people have already seen her. And now all the neighbors would be talking about it. "I have to go to work," I said and walked quickly to the bus stop. "Evelina, wait!" Donna Rosa shouted after me. "What do you say?" But I didn't turn around. Walking down the street was agonizing. It seemed that all the passers-by were looking at me and whispering something to each other. Although, most likely, it was only my imagination. The day went hard at the store. I tried to work as usual, but my thoughts kept returning to the morning conversation with my neighbor. If Maricella's husband saw Amelia in that place, Then he goes there, and if he does, so do other men in the neighborhood, and they all know where my daughter works. By lunchtime, I was exhausted from my own worries. I took my lunch break and went to the little cafe next to the store where I sometimes ate when I didn't bring food from home. She ordered soup and bread, sat at a table in the corner, and tried to calm down. At the next table sat two middle-aged women whom I often saw in the store. They were talking quietly about something, and suddenly I heard familiar words. Evelina's daughter from the store. I froze with a spoonful of soup in my hand. They say she works in a gambling house. It's a shame to raise a daughter like that, and she's also a cashier working with money. The women spoke softly, but I heard every word. They were discussing my family, my daughter, myself. They spoke as if I were not a person, but an object to be discussed. I got up, left the soup, and walked out of the cafe. It was sunny outside, but I was cold. My hands were shaking as I lit a cigarette. I rarely smoked, only in moments of great stress, but now I had to do something about my nerves. So the gossip had already reached the store's customers. These women know where I work, and now they'll tell others that Evelina, the cashier's daughter, works in a shady place. And what would Director Pedro think if word got out? I spent the afternoon working in a fog. I smiled at customers, counted change, punched items, but inside I was burning with shame and resentment. Resentment at Amelia for putting me in this position. Resentment at the neighbors who were so quick to pick up on the gossip. Resentment at the whole world, which is so unfair. In the evening on my way home, I met Doña Rosa again. She was watering the flowers on her porch and smiled at the sight of me. "Evelina, I've been thinking about you all day. How are you?" "Fine," I mumbled, not stopping. "Have you talked to Amelia?" "Talk about what?" "Oh yeah, people say different things about that place. Maricella's husband told me that there are other games there, not just cards. They play for big money." I stopped and looked at my neighbor, an old woman with sly eyes who had spent her life feeding on other people's secrets and misfortunes. "Rosa, why does Maricella's husband go there?" Donna Rosa was embarrassed. "Well, men like to play games sometimes." "So he's breaking the law too? What law? People are on vacation." "Then what questions about my daughter?" The neighbor opened her mouth but didn't say anything. I moved on without waiting for an answer. At home, I sat in the kitchen and tried to calm down. The day had been hard, but tomorrow would be a new day, and maybe people would find another topic to discuss. Maybe soon everyone would forget about Amelia's work and switch to something else. But the next day only got worse. On the bus in the morning, I overheard two women discussing the new casino on the outskirts. One was telling the other that the cashier's daughter from St. Martin's worked there. I sat 3 rows away from them and heard every word. "Does the mother know?" one asked. "Of course she knows. I bet she's glad her daughter's making good money." Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I wanted to stand up and explain to these women that they are wrong, that I am against my daughter's work, that I am trying to change her mind. But what's the use? They wouldn't believe it anyway, and the gossip would get new details. It's been turbulent at the store, too. A few times I noticed customers glancing over at me as they approached my cash register. One woman paying for her groceries said, "Are you Evelina Valverde? Do you have a daughter, Amelia?" My heart sank, but I nodded. "She's a beautiful girl," the woman continued. "I saw her at her new job." "Thank you," I whispered. "It's a good place, they say." "A good place, they say." I didn't say anything, and the woman left. But I knew that tomorrow she'd tell someone how she'd talked to the mother of that girl from the casino. By Wednesday, I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Every time I left the house was an ordeal. Every trip to the store, every bus ride became a source of stress. I felt like everyone was looking at me with judgment, that everyone was whispering behind my back. Meeting Celestina at the cafe was the only bright spot in that gloomy week. My friend greeted me with a concerned look. "Evelina, you look terrible," she said, as we sat down at our usual table. "I didn't sleep well," I replied. "Was it because of Amelia?" I nodded and recounted everything that had happened in the last few days. The conversation with my neighbor, the gossip in the cafe, the discussion on the bus, the strange looks from the shoppers. Celestina listened in silence, occasionally shaking her head. You know, she said when I was done, they talk about it at school, too. School? I was surprised. Yes. Yesterday I was cleaning the teacher's lounge and there were women talking about it. One says her husband was in that place and saw Evelina Valverde's daughter. And the other one says, which Evelina? And the first one replies, the one who works at St. Martin's as a cashier. I got a chill inside. So the rumors have even reached the school where Celestina works, which means everyone in town is about to find out. What else did they say? I asked, even though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. All sorts of things. One said it was amazing how an honest woman could raise a daughter like that. Another said that the family must be in need of money, since the girl went to such a place. What did you say? What could I say? I said I didn't know the details, and I wouldn't judge. I was ashamed. I had put Celestina in an awkward position at work because of me. Her coworkers now know she's friends with the woman whose daughter works at the gambling house. Celestina, I'm sorry, I said. I didn't mean for this to get to you. Don't be silly, she said. We've been friends for so many years, and you think some gossip is going to change anything? But I could see that she didn't like it either. Celestina had always been very sensitive about her reputation. She made sure that no bad things were said about her and her family, and suddenly she found herself embroiled in a scandal because of my family problems. What did Raphael think? I asked. Raphael says it's none of our business, but yesterday he asked if it was true that Amelia was working in the casino. And what did you say? The truth. She works at a gambling club as a receptionist. We finished our coffee in silence. I thought about how quickly rumors spread in a small town. It's only been a week since Amelia started working at that place, and already everyone from the neighbors to the teachers at school know about her. And everyone is discussing not only her, but me too. Evelina, Celestina said, have you thought about talking to the store manager? Warn him beforehand? Warn him of what? Well, if rumors reach him, it's better that he hears your version, not someone else's. I've been thinking, Pedro really could have heard about Amelia's work from customers or from other employees, and it would be better for him to hear it from me, not from gossip. Maybe you're right, I said. Of course you're right. Tell him you're against the job, that you're trying to change your daughter's mind. Then he'll realize you had nothing to do with it. After my meeting with Celestina, I walked home and thought about her advice. I really should have talked to Pedro. He had known me for 15 years. He knew I was an honest and reliable worker. If I explained the situation to him, he would understand. But on the other hand, what if he hasn't heard anything yet? What if the rumors haven't reached him? Then my talking to him would only draw his attention to the problem. I decided to wait a little longer. If Pedro hears something and talks to me, then I'll explain. In the meantime, I'll hope that everything will be all right. On Thursday, the thing I feared most happened. In the morning, when I arrived at work, Pedro called me into his office. "Evelina, sit down," he said, pointing to a chair in front of his desk. Pedro was a man in his 50s, stocky, with a graying mustache. Strict, but fair. In all the years we'd worked together, we'd never had a fight, and he'd always treated me well. "What happened?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Evelina, I've been approached by several customers. They say your daughter works in a gambling establishment in the suburbs." I lowered my eyes. "Here we go." "Is it true?" Pedro asked. "It is," I whispered. "And you knew about it?" "I knew it. I've tried to talk her out of it, but she won't listen." Pedro was silent, tapping his fingers on the table. Evelina, do you realize that this puts me in a difficult position?" "I do. We're a family-run store and we value our reputation. If customers say that the mother of a casino woman works here..." "It's not a casino," I interrupted. "It's a club." "What's the difference?" Pedro raised his head and looked at me. "What matters is what people think. I didn't say anything. What was there to say?" He was right. The store's reputation could really suffer. "I won't do anything for now," Pedro said. "But if the talk intensifies, if it starts to affect the store's operations..." He didn't finish, but I understood. I could be fired. "I understand," I said. "Try talking to your daughter again. Maybe she'll come to her senses. I nodded and left the office. My hands shook as I put on my cashier's uniform. The job I'd had for 15 years was now hanging by a thread, all because of Amelia's stubbornness. The day passed in a blur. I mechanically punched items, counted change, answered customers' questions, but my mind was far away. What would happen if I was fired? Where would I find another job at my age? How would I pay for my apartment, for food, for Amelia's mortgage? By late afternoon, I finally realized I couldn't go on like this. Something had to be done, and it had to be done quickly, before it was too late. 2 more weeks passed. 2 weeks during which I went to work every day with my heart racing, not knowing what Pedro would say, what new gossip I would hear, what looks I would see. The talk about Amelia's work in the city had not died down, but rather the opposite. It had grown, adding new details, becoming more and more unpleasant. Last Wednesday, Celestina said that she had heard the school say that the place was not only a card game, but also some other kind of entertainment. That not only local men came there, but also people from other towns. That there was a lot of money going around. And that the daughter of the cashier at St. Martin's is now at the center of it all. Every morning when I woke up, I hoped that Amelia would come to her senses, that she would call and say, "Mom, you were right. I quit." But as the days went by, there was no call, nor were the usual Sunday dinners. After our last fight, my daughter never came again. I missed those meetings despite all the problems. The house seemed empty and quiet without the voices of the children, without the clatter of dishes, without the usual family bustle. On Saturday morning, when I was cleaning the house and trying not to think about the troubles, the phone rang. The number was familiar Amelia. "Hi, Mom," she said, and there wasn't the usual warmth in her voice. "Hi, daughter. How are you?" "I'm fine. Mom, Fabian and I are coming over tomorrow, for dinner." My heart jumped with joy. Finally. Maybe she wants to make up. Maybe she's ready to talk about her work. "Sure, come over. I'll make something special." "You don't need anything special. Just dinner." "All right. What time should I expect you?" 6 o'clock, as usual." "Amelia, I couldn't take it anymore." How was work?" A short pause. "It's good, Mom, it's good." "Sweetie, why don't we talk tomorrow? Calmly, without fighting?" "We'll see," Amelia answered dryly and hung up. I put the phone down and felt a mixture of joy and anxiety. Joy that the children would finally come, that the house would be filled with voices again. And anxiety because there was a strange note in Amelia's voice. Not anger, not resentment, something else. Determination or something. All Saturday and Sunday morning I spent preparing for the meeting. I went to the market, bought fresh meat, vegetables, fruit. I made roast pork with rice and vegetables, Fabian's favorite, baked apple pie. I put the best dishes on the table, the ones I usually only brought out on holidays. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted Amelia to feel how much I missed her, how much I wanted us to reconcile. Maybe the comfort of home, the smell of her favorite foods, the family atmosphere would help her realize she was doing it wrong. By 6 p.m., everything was ready. The table was set, food was placed on plates, and the house was filled with appetizing smells. I changed into my best dress, combed my hair, even put on a little makeup. I wanted to look good for my daughter. At 6 sharp, the doorbell rang. Amelia and Fabian stood on the doorstep, both looking somehow official. Amelia was in a dark business suit, her hair in a tight bun. Fabian in new jeans and a shirt I'd seen for the first time. They were even dressed differently than usual. Come in," I fussed. "How are you? How did you get here?" "Fine," Amelia said, kissing me on the cheek. The kiss was formal, cold. Fabian kissed me too, but he was looking away. We walked into the living room, where the table was set. Amelia looked at the food and nodded. "It's beautiful, Mom. I did it for you. Sit down and I'll serve the hot pot." I brought the pork and rice and put them on plates. I poured juice into glasses, the orange juice Amelia had loved since she was a child. I poured the same juice for Fabian, even though I knew he preferred soda. We started eating in silence. I waited for someone to speak, but everyone was silent. Amelia ate carefully, in small bites, not lifting her eyes from her plate. Fabian chewed intently, nodding occasionally to indicate that the food was good. So, how was work? I asked finally, turning to Fabian. Good. Lots of orders, nothing to complain about. And you, Amelia? My daughter looked up and looked at me carefully. I'm doing well too, Mom. Very good. There was a defiant note in her voice that I didn't like. How's the staff? Are the people good? They're great. Everyone's very friendly and understanding. Amelia, I sighed. Can't we talk about this? Like grown-ups. Like, calmly? Talk about what, Mom? Your job. About what's going on in town. What people are saying. Amelia put down her fork and looked at me straight on. What do people say? They say all sorts of things. They say bad things. And what's wrong with me working and making money? Amelia, you know it's not an easy job. Why isn't it easy? I'm an administrator. I keep order. I receive visitors. What's so hard about it? Fabian kept eating, pretending not to hear our conversation, but I could see he was tense. Daughter, I said as gently as I could, I understand that you need money. If you don't have enough, I can help you more. I can take on more shifts, ask for a raise. Mom, I have enough money, more than I've ever had. But at what cost? Amelia, the whole town is talking about where you work. I've already been warned at work. Warned? Warned about what? I told her about my conversation with Pedro, that the customers were complaining, that my job was in jeopardy. Amelia listened with a stone face. And what do you want me to do? She asked when I was done. Get out of there. Get a normal job. For pennies? For honest money. Mom, I don't steal, I don't kill, I don't deal drugs. I'm a receptionist at an entertainment venue. What's the problem? The problem is it's illegal. Who says it's illegal? Amelia, don't pretend. Clandestine casinos are illegal. It's not a casino, Mom. It's a private club, where they play for money. So, people have a right to gamble with their money. I felt my irritation rising. Amelia spoke as if I were a stupid old woman who didn't understand anything about life. Amelia, if it's so legal, why is the place in the suburbs? Why do they pay so much money? Why are there whispers about it? I don't know why the whispers. Maybe people have nothing else to do. Fabian finally raised his head. Evelina, he said, let's not spoil the dinner. Amelia is a grown woman. She knows what she's doing. Fabian, do you realize that if something happens, it will affect you, and me, and the whole family? Nothing will happen, Amelia said firmly. But what if it does? What if there's a raid? What if you all get arrested? Mom, stop fantasizing. I'm not fantasizing. I'm trying to save my daughter from doing something stupid. Save her from what? A good salary? A normal life? Prison. Amelia got up from the table. Mom, if you keep this up, we're leaving. No, wait, I got up too. Listen to me, I'm very serious. If you don't quit this job, I'll go to the police myself. There was silence. Amelia looked at me in amazement. What? She whispered. I'll go to the police and tell them about that place. I'll have them make sure it's legitimate. You can't do that. I can, and I will if I have to. Amelia slowly sat back down. Her face turned white. Mom, do you know what you're saying? I know exactly what I'm saying. I won't let you ruin my life. You'll ruin it for me and Fabian. I'd rather ruin it now than bury you in jail. Fabian put his hand on his wife's shoulder. Amelia, maybe we should think. Think about what? She answered sharply. That my own mother would betray me? It's not betrayal. It's trying to save you. Save me from what? Amelia stood up again, anger in her eyes. From finally being able to live a normal life? From not counting every salt? Amelia, don't scream. I'm not yelling. I'm trying to explain to you that for the first time in my life, I'm making enough money to feel human. And I'm not a human being? I've worked for pennies all my life, but I've been honest. Honest? Amelia laughed, but it was an evil laugh. Mom, you've been paying our mortgage for 4 years. Do you think that's honest? What do you mean? That we're living on your money, that I can't pay for my own house when I'm 31 years old. I'm doing this because I love you. And I do what I do because I want to be independent. We looked at each other across the table, and there was a gulf of incomprehension between us. I saw something new in my daughter's eyes, not just stubbornness, but a cold determination. All right, she said at last. Do whatever you want. Go to the police. But know that if you do, I'm not your daughter anymore. Amelia. No, Mom. If you betray me, we're done, forever. She turned to Fabian. Let's go. There's nothing more to do here. Wait, I said. We haven't finished eating, and I haven't served the pie yet. No pie, Amelia said coldly. But Fabian suddenly stood up and came over to me. Evelina, can I help you? Can I fetch something from the kitchen? I was surprised at the offer. Fabian had never offered to help with the food. Thank you, Fabian. You can get the pie. It's on the kitchen table under the towel. Sure. Fabian went into the kitchen. Amelia sat back down, but her face remained stony. Amelia, I said more quietly, I don't want to fight. I'm just afraid for you. And I'm afraid of living a life of starvation like you. The words hurt. Does my daughter think I've lived a bad life? Does she think all my efforts, all the sacrifices I've made for my children have been a failure? Amelia, I didn't starve. I've raised you, I've worked, I've tried to give you the best. The best? Mom, you work as a cashier for pennies. You live in a rented apartment when you're 37. You buy clothes on sale. Is that what you call a good life? That's what I call an honest life. And I call it poverty. I felt like crying. When did Amelia become so cruel? When did she learn to talk so painfully? That's when I heard Fabian drop something in the kitchen. There was a clinking of dishes. Oh, I'm sorry, he shouted. It's all right. Nothing's broken. I'll go see what's going on, I said, and went into the kitchen. Fabian was standing at the kitchen table, picking up the crumbs from the pie. I'm sorry, Evelina. I elbowed a plate. That's all right. I'll get another one. I turned to the cupboard to get another plate, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a strange movement. I turned around and saw Amelia coming into the kitchen from the living room. She was holding a small bag of something white. When she saw me, she quickly hid her hand behind her back. What are you doing? I asked. Checking to see if Fabian's okay, she said, but her voice was shaking. I told you I was fine. Amelia stood for a second, then went back into the living room. But something about her behavior seemed suspicious to me. I picked up the pie plate and went back into the living room. Amelia was sitting at the table drinking juice. Her glass was almost empty. My glass stood still. I hardly touched it. Fabian's glass was also full. Would you like some pie? I asked, cutting the apple pie into slices. No, thank you, Amelia said. We should get going. So early? I was disappointed. You just got here. We have things to do, Mom. Fabian sat down at the table and picked up his juice glass. I'll have a drink, he said. It's hot today. He put the glass to his mouth. Wait, Fabian, I said suddenly. Would you like some cold juice? I have some in the fridge. No, thanks. Juice is fine. Come on. I stood up. I'll get it. This juice is getting warm. Evelina, don't, Fabian said, but I was already walking toward him. Let me pour you some fresh juice, from the fridge. I took his glass and mine and went into the kitchen. Then I poured the juice from my glass into his and diluted it with a little cold juice from the fridge. Then I brought the glass and put it in front of Fabian. Mom, what are you doing? Poured him some cold juice. I went to the kitchen, and when I came back, Fabian had already sipped from the glass. Amelia was pale as a wall. Well, now we can have pie, I said, sitting down at the table. But Amelia was already getting up. We really have to go, Mom. Okay, I didn't insist. Thanks for coming. They got dressed and headed out. Amelia kissed me on the cheek, a frightened kiss this time. Fabian said goodbye too, but he looked confused. Goodbye, I said as I walked them to the gate. Goodbye, Mom, Amelia said, but didn't turn around. I watched them walk down the street and thought about that strange episode with the glasses. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. And that bag in Amelia's hands. What was in it? But for now, I could only guess. The answers were to come later. Monday started as usual. I woke up at 7:30, made myself breakfast, got ready for work. But my mind was racing with thoughts of last night's dinner. About Amelia's strange behavior, about the bag she'd hidden behind her back, about how scared she'd looked when I'd switched glasses with Fabian. All night I tossed and turned, trying to figure out what had happened. Did Amelia really want to put something in my juice? But why? Was it because I was going to go to the police? And what could it be? Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I just imagined it. I've been distracted at work. I'd miscounted change a few times once I'd punched in the wrong item. Pedro didn't say anything, but I could see that he noticed my inattention. The last few weeks have been hard enough with the rumors about Amelia, and now I'm not working well. At 12:30, when there was a brief lull between customers in the store, my cell phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, but it was local. "Hello?" I answered quietly, so as not to disturb the other sales clerks. "Evelina?" The voice was familiar, but it sounded weak, painful. "Yes. Who's speaking?" "It's Fabian." I was surprised. Fabian never called me. If he needed a message, he always asked Amelia to call. "Fabian? What's wrong? Why do you sound so strange?" "Evelina, I'm very sick. Since this morning, I've had a very upset stomach since this morning." "What?" I was scared. "Have you called a doctor?" "No, not yet. I thought it would go away, but it's after 6 o'clock and I'm getting worse." "Where's Amelia?" "At work. I called her, but she said she couldn't leave. I felt bad. A husband gets sick and his wife can't quit her job. A job like that." "Fabian, what exactly is it? Nausea? Fever?" "No nausea, but, my stomach. I keep running to the bathroom." "Maybe I ate something wrong?" "I don't know. Yesterday I only ate at your place. I had my usual breakfast this morning, bread and butter and coffee. My heart is clenched. Yesterday he only ate at my place, and the only thing different from usual was that he drank from my glass." "Fabian," I said cautiously, "when did it start? At night?" "No, in the morning. I woke up at 8 o'clock with a stomachache." "Call a doctor. Maybe it's poisoning." "Maybe. Evelina, can I ask you a favor?" Sure." "Could you come in here, please? Get some medicine from the pharmacy? I'm having a hard time getting out." I looked at my watch. It was 2 hours till lunch. "That's fine. I'll finish work soon. Stop by the drugstore and I'll come over." "Thank you very much. I'm sorry to bother you." "No, don't apologize. I'll be right there." I hung up and felt a chill run down my spine. Fabian had gotten sick after that dinner, after he drank from my glass, the glass that Amelia had probably spiked. Isn't that an accident? The remaining 2 hours before lunch dragged on for an agonizingly long time. I mechanically served the customers, but my thoughts were far away. If Amelia had really put something in my juice, what was it? And why? The scariest assumption was that my daughter wanted to humiliate me in some way, a laxative to embarrass me in front of my son-in-law, to show me my place, to punish me for threatening to go to the police. But if that's true, then Amelia is capable of things I didn't even know she was capable of. So my daughter could deliberately hurt me, could humiliate her own mother for what? Revenge? To get me to leave her alone? At 12, I took my lunch break and drove to Amelia's house. I stopped at the pharmacy on the way, bought some stomach medicine and activated charcoal. If Fabian was poisoned, those medications should help. Amelia and Fabian's house was in a quiet neighborhood where all the streets looked alike. Small, one-story houses with small yards, neat fences, flower beds. 4 years ago, when they bought this house, I was so happy. Finally, the children would have their own place, their own hearth, a place for their future grandchildren. And now, this house has become a symbol of my problems. Every month, I gave 800 souls out of my 1,200 to pay the mortgage. I've been starving so that Amelia and Fabian could sleep in their beds without worrying about rent. And now it turns out my daughter's ready to put something in my food. What did I do all this for? I knocked on the door. Fabian didn't answer it right away, and when he did, I was scared. He looked awful pale, gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes. His hair was disheveled, his shirt was crumpled. "Evelina, thank you for coming," he said in a weak voice. "How are you doing? Feel better?" "No, it's the same. Worse, maybe." I went into the house. The living room was cool and quiet. There were empty glasses on the coffee table and used napkins lying around. It was obvious that Fabian had been here all day without getting up. "Here, I bought some medicine," I said, handing him a bag from the pharmacy. One for the disorder, the other for activated charcoal. Thank you. How much to take? It's written in the instructions, but it's better to call a doctor if you don't feel better. Fabian nodded and sat down in the chair. I sat across from him on the couch. Fabian, I said after a moment's silence, do you remember what you ate at my place last night? Well, pork, rice, juice, the usual food. Do you remember the juice? What kind was it? Orange juice. Very tasty, by the way. I didn't know how to ask him what I really cared about. How to ask him if he'd noticed anything strange about Amelia's behavior. Had he seen her put something in my glass? Fabian, I finally decided. Was Amelia acting strange last night? Strange? In what way? I don't know. Nervous, maybe. Or hiding something. Fabian thought about it. She was tense, yes, but I could see why, because you'd been fighting with her. Did you notice anything else? No. Why? I realized he didn't see anything. When Amelia came out of the kitchen with that bag, Fabian didn't seem to notice. It was nothing. She just seemed different. Different. We talked for a while. Fabian drank the medicine and leaned back in his chair. Evelina, he said, do you really want to go to the police? I don't. But if I have to. You realize it would ruin Amelia's life, don't you? Does she realize she's ruining my life with her work? Fabian sighed. She'd changed a lot in the last few weeks. She's become, rigid, irritable. In what way? Well, she's a nervous wreck at home. She says she's tired of everyone meddling in her business, you and Damien and the neighbors. She's not tired of you? Me too. Last night after dinner at your place, she didn't say a word all the way home, and then she said that if I didn't support her, she'd... Fabian stopped talking. She what? I asked her. Nothing. It doesn't matter. Fabian, tell me, what did she say? She said if I wasn't on her side, she'd find someone who would be. I got cold feet. Is Amelia threatening her husband with divorce over a casino job? And what did you say? I told her I supported her. What else was I supposed to say? I looked at Fabian, and for the first time, I thought about what it was like for him to live with the new Amelia. A man who'd always been gentle, compliant, suddenly caught between a hammer and an anvil. On the one hand, a wife who demands unconditional support. On the other, common sense, which says that the wife is doing the wrong thing. Fabian, I said. What do you think? Is she doing the right thing? He was silent for a long time. Honestly, I don't know. The money's really good there, but I don't like what people are saying. And I don't like the way she's changed. Changed how? She's gotten mean. She used to be kind, gentle. And now it's hard to talk to her. She always seems like she's ready to explode. We were quiet again. A car flew by outside the window, a dog barked somewhere, children played. A normal life, with no room for family drama or suspicion. Fabian, I said at last, there's something I want to tell you, but you can't tell Amelia, okay? Okay. He looked at me carefully. Yesterday, when you were at my place, I saw something strange. What was it? When you went into the kitchen to get a pie, Amelia came out of the living room too. I turned around and saw that she was holding a small bag with some white powder in it. Fabian frowned. A baggie? Yes. When she saw me, she quickly hid it behind her back. And what do you think it was? I don't know, but it looked suspicious to me. And when we got back to the living room, I noticed she'd drunk most of her juice and hadn't touched my glass. So I switched glasses between you and me. I gave you my juice, and I took yours for myself. Fabian was silent, digesting what he had heard. Do you think, you think she put something in your juice? I don't know, but it was after you drank from my glass that you got sick. But why would she do that? Maybe she wanted to humiliate me. Laxatives to make me sick so I couldn't go to the police. Fabian turned even paler. Are you serious? Fabian, what do you think? Is it impossible? He sat silent, and I could see different feelings struggling in his eyes. Disbelief, surprise, and then understanding. You know, he said slowly, now that you say it. She was really acting strange yesterday. When we left, she kept looking around like she was waiting for something to happen. What did she say at home? She asked me how I was feeling. She asked me several times. And then the morning I got sick, she wasn't surprised. She wasn't surprised? No, like she was expecting it. We looked at each other, and there was a heavy silence between us. Fabian understood what I understood. Amelia had really put something in my juice, and now he was suffering instead of me. Fabian, I said, I'm sorry. This is all my fault. Not you. Because of what my wife is capable of. What are you going to do now? I don't know. I'll talk to her, I guess. And if she denies it, then I don't know. I got up off the couch. I should get going. Lunch break's ending. Evelina, wait. What are you going to do? What am I going to do? Well, with Amelia, threatening to go to the police. I've been thinking. After what happened yesterday, after Fabian's illness, everything had changed. Amelia had crossed a line that shouldn't be crossed. She tried to hurt me, to humiliate me, and coincidentally, her own husband was hurt. Fabian, I said, I'll come and see you tonight, when Amelia's home, and we'll talk, all three of us. And talk about what? About me not paying your mortgage anymore. Fabian flinched. What? I paid for your house for 4 years. I gave you more than half my paycheck so you could live in peace, and now it turns out the daughter I'm paying for is ready to poison me. Evelina. No, Fabian, it's over. I'm tired. I'm tired of ingratitude, of being treated like a fool who has to pay and keep quiet. But if you stop paying, we won't be able to make the mortgage payments. That's not my problem. Find a way. But no buts, Fabian. I've made my decision. I'm going out. Fabian tried to stand up, but he swayed with weakness. Evelina, wait. See you tonight, Fabian. I'll be here at 7. I left the house and got on the bus. On the way to work, I thought about the conversation I was going to have tonight. For the first time in years, I felt clarity, not guilt, not doubt. Amelia had shown her real face, and now I would show mine. At 7 p.m., I knocked again on the door of the house I'd been paying the mortgage on for 4 years. Amelia opened the door. When she saw me, she was surprised. Mom? What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. Let me go. Talk about what? You'll find out. Where's Fabian? At home. He's sick. I know, I was at your house this afternoon. Amelia let me into the house. Fabian was sitting in the living room, still pale and weak. When he saw me, he nodded. Sit down, I said to Amelia. Mom, what's going on? Sit down, I said. Amelia sat on the edge of the couch, looking at me warily. Amelia, I began. Yesterday you put something in my juice. What? My daughter turned pale. Don't deny it. I saw you go into the kitchen with the bag. I saw you hiding it when I turned around. Mom, what are you talking about? The truth. You were going to poison me. You were going to give me laxatives. That's crazy. Then why did Fabian fall ill after drinking from my glass? Amelia looked at her husband, then at me. What glass? The one that was mine. I switched the contents of our glasses when I went to get cold juice. There was silence. Amelia sat silent, and I could see her frantically thinking of what to say. Amelia, Fabian said quietly, is it true? No, of course not. Then why were you not surprised when I was ill this morning? Continued her husband. Why did you ask me how I was feeling? Yeah, I was just worried. Amelia, I said, stop lying. You slipped me a laxative to humiliate me. Admit it. My daughter was silent, staring at the floor. Okay, I said. Don't confess, but I've come to tell you something important. What? Starting tomorrow, I stop paying your mortgage. Amelia raised her head. What? I won't pay for your house anymore. For 4 years, I've given you more than half my salary so you could live in peace. But after yesterday, I realized that a daughter who's ready to poison her mother doesn't deserve my help. Mom, you can't. Yes, I can. And besides, I don't want to see you anymore. What? You heard me. I don't want to see you anymore. Don't call me. Don't come to see me. You don't have a daughter for me anymore. Amelia jumped up from the couch. Mom, wait. Let's talk. Talk about what? About how you tried to poison me? About how your job might get me fired? How you're threatening your husband with divorce? Where did you... It doesn't matter where. What matters is that now I know who you really are. I went to the exit. Amelia followed me. Mom, don't go. We can talk about this. No, we can't. You made your choice. Now live with him. But the mortgage, we can't pay it. Not my problem. Take 2 jobs, sell the house, do whatever you want. But without me. I got to the door and turned around. One more thing, Amelia. If you don't quit that casino tomorrow, I'm going to the police. Mom! But I'd already gone out and closed the door behind me. I heard screaming and pleading behind me, but I didn't turn around. 4 years ago, I came to this house with joy to help the children organize their new life. And today, I leave forever, heartbroken and aware that my own daughter has betrayed me. But for the first time in weeks, I was relieved. Finally, everything had been said. I finally stopped pretending that things could be fixed. Sometimes you have to be able to let go, even your own children.